Well, hello, my lovely lilies. Tonight I have for you a creepypasta entitled Cupid. You can find this story at creepypasta.wikia. Without further ado, close the blinds, dim those lights, cuddle under your favorite blanket, and let's begin. The following entries were taken from the diary of Mary Stewart, a 7-year-old girl from the town of Motley, New England. The diary is currently being kept in the Motley Police Department archives, following a wave of violence, which swept through the town on Tuesday. Dear Diary, I saw Cupid today. I was sitting on a bench in our garden when I saw him coming down the sidewalk, on bare feet. He was about my own age, and wearing nothing but a pair of white shorts. The smile on his face was the loveliest expression I've ever seen. He's got eyes bluer than the sea, and skin as white as snow. I knew it was him, because I've read all about him in my mommy's storybooks. Mr. Reverend said there is no Cupid, and God is the only, well, God in the world. But he was obviously wrong, for Cupid was right here. I watched with fascination as he wandered through the busy street, singing in a language I could not understand. Maybe it was Latin, because Daddy had once told me that everybody spoke Latin in ancient times. It's amazing how the passer-by seemed to ignore him completely. But it could be that only kids can see him. I remembered a story about fairies that can only be seen by children. And if that's what fairies do, then why not Cupid? I ran back into the house and grabbed Daddy's cell phone from the dining room table. I wanted to take a picture of Cupid so that I could show Mr. Reverend when we meet him this Sunday how wrong he is about there being only one God and etc. But when I returned to the street, Cupid was gone, and it took me a really long time to find him again. He was in Uncle Smith's garden. When I saw him, he was leaning beside a young man and a young woman, sitting together on a long bench. I suddenly realized that they were lovers, and Cupid was making them fall in love with each other. But wasn't he supposed to shoot them with his arrows? Well, Daddy said yesterday that not all fairy tales are true, so maybe Cupid doesn't use arrows after all. It makes sense, because I heard that arrows hurts really bad, just like needles, I suppose. Cupid's smile widened as he leaned even closer to the young man and whispered something into his ears. He then went to the woman and he pressed his lips against her neck as he flexed his jaws repeatedly. I wonder if he's kissing her or something. I held up the cell phone to take a picture of him, but before I could press the button, he was up and running again. I tried to follow him through the crowd, but he was running too fast. Just then, I heard loud screaming coming from Uncle Smith's garden, and a huge crowd of people came dashing down the sidewalk, almost knocking me down. When everybody had gone, so was Cupid. I felt really sorry that I didn't get a picture, because Mr. Reverend would never believe me without seeing Cupid with his own eyes. Dear Diary, Mommy and Daddy looked really worried when we had breakfast this morning. I asked Mommy what's up, but she said it's not for kids like me to know. Grown-ups. They're always like this. After breakfast, I went to school, only to find everybody standing before the gate. Julie told me that school was out today because something bad had happened yesterday at Uncle Smith's house. I asked her what exactly was it, but she said that her parents wouldn't tell her either. We decided to play hide and seek on the school playground, but then an old gentleman showed up and screamed at us to go home, saying that it's not safe for us to be out there. How upsetting. I saw Cupid again today. I was standing on the second floor balcony of our house when I saw him waving towards me in the street. I rushed to Daddy's room for the cell phone, but he was already gone by the time I returned. No matter, I'm going to take his picture sooner or later, you bet. Dear Diary, today's Sunday, and Daddy drove me and Mommy to church. Mommy asked me to pray all along the way, although she never told me why. But I guess she was worried about my final exams. Don't worry, Mommy, I'm not going to let you down. There were lots of people in the church, all of them talking about things I could not understand. They were saying things like, I can't believe Peter did something like that. He was a good boy. And young people these days, they're all crazy. Then I heard someone say, it must be these Hollywood movies. Young people? Then what about old George? He's like, what, 80 years old or something? I can't believe he... Shut up, Daniel. There are children here. We waited more than an hour for Mr. Reverend to show up. It was not like him to be late. Just when I was about to fall asleep, someone began to scream outside the church, and in came Mr. Reverend. He was covered in something red and black, and his belly looked really, really big. I wanted to take a closer look, but Mommy put her hands over my face and dragged me away. Everyone was screaming, and I screamed too, because it hurts a lot to be dragged along by your arms. That night, Daddy told me to stay home for the following week of school. I was really upset because I did nothing wrong. Well, at least I don't have to go to school for a while. Dear Diary, I saw Cupid again today. Yeah, he was standing in our garden and smiling at me. I smiled back and waved. It was raining at the time, but he was not wet. Well, he is Cupid after all. I yelled at him to wait, but he just turned and walked away like he didn't hear me. Worried that I might have done something to upset him, I ran after him into the garden, and I saw Daddy standing on the sidewalk, and Cupid whispering something into his ears. I walked up to them, and Cupid ran off immediately. I asked Daddy if he saw Cupid, but he got angry and yelled at me to get back inside. Oh, by the way, Mommy said that she felt someone kissing her neck when she was sleeping on the living room sofa. She wanted to know if it was me, and I said no, but I knew who it was. Of course, it's Cupid. He had snuck into the house and kissed Mommy, just like how he kissed the woman in Uncle Smith's garden. It's Cupid who kissed you, Mommy, I said. Mommy laughed and held me in her arms. She said I'm a good girl. I love you, Mommy. Dear Diary, I didn't see Mommy this morning. After getting out of bed, I called for Mommy and Daddy, but nobody answered. I ran downstairs and I saw Daddy sitting on the floor. His stomach was huge, like the bellies of those people in cartoons, and he was covered in dirty red and black stuff like those on Mr. Reverend. He laughed and told me to come closer because he couldn't stand up on his own. I asked him where Mommy was, and he said she was right here with us. I was very afraid, but Daddy smiled warmly and said that there's nothing to worry about. I went to him weeping, and he bit down hard on my wrist. I ran back upstairs and locked myself in my room. I cried and I cried because Daddy had lied to me. I want my mommy. I looked out of the window a few moments ago, and I saw lots of people with big bellies out there on the street. It's getting dark now, but Mommy still isn't home yet. Mommy, where are you? Cupid was standing in the garden. He was smiling at me and telling me to come down. He said that he wants to take a picture with me, but I was afraid because his teeth looked so long and so sharp. Besides, there's no way I could leave the room because Daddy's out there. I can hear him pounding on the door right now. Cupid came into my room. He held me in his arms and said that he loves me. He opened the door and told me that Daddy is dead, and so is Mommy. But I could still be with them, to have them by my sides. He showed me how. It worked. I now have Mommy and Daddy with me forever. They'll never leave me again. But Daddy, he isn't all with me. There's nothing I can do about it, because he was far too big for me to eat up whole. Alright, my lovely lilies, thank you so much for watching the new video. If you can, hit that subscribe and like button, comment below and tell me your thoughts. Also, don't forget to tap the little notification bell so you're always in the know on this channel. As well, guys, you can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and always you can hit me up in my emails. Feel free to send me your stories, whether they're fiction or totally true. I'm always up for some great stories. And oh, by the way, until next time, sweet dreams.